Game Network. You can tell I've been off a week. I'm Mike. With me is Kevin, Josh. The Hounds laid a stinker at home, and we've got a ton of other people's thoughts. We're going to share them all and talk all about it. You know what? Let's go. I know we didn't win, but it felt like a let's go. So we're just going to do it. Josh, you don't have your victory beverage. So
no, I have a glass of wine just because I opened it up and then I remembered we were doing the podcast. I'm like, well, taking wine to the podcast. All right.
It's not that like when the Hounds lose, you get all proper and you're a different Josh for that week. No,
no. It was literally like, popping wine, working in the kitchen. And then I'm like, we have the podcast today. I don't know why. Every Monday, I think it's just because my Monday brain, like I'm just like, out of it Monday, whatever. And I'm like, right, podcast. Okay.
Yep. It's just become a thing that we do. What's Kev, what's going on?
Nothing as always.
Have you ever been headbutt before?
No.
Never?
No. Never.
Do you know anyone who has headbutt someone else?
Do you want to get into this now? Really?
You're not feeling great.
Business, Mike.
Nunez business. Okay. All right.
Sorry, that was terrible.
Yeah, that's all right. That's cool. That's good. That's good. Are you worried at all, Kev? I'm just good. That'll just be a blanket question.
Like, it depends on like what you mean by worry. Like, I didn't think we were gonna like win the league anyway. Like, but it's also like ridiculous.
Okay.
No, it's also ridiculous that like we get 2 draws and we're 2 games in the season. It's like, well, it's gone. Like, it's done. And it's just like,
listen, I've already written off Everton for the whole season. You can write off Liverpool for the whole season. It's fine. You know, it's okay to overreact.
Oh man, yeah. If you don't know, you know, I'm assuming if you're listening to this, you probably do know the Premier League is back in full swing. I've been listening to Aston Villa podcast. They had a question that came up. I love British people, but the question was posed, and I immediately knew what he meant. But the one guy said, "Do you like bits or no bits in your orange juice?" And like when you hear that, like I'm like, pulp? You mean pulp? And yeah, and so they got into this really big conversation about bits or no bits in orange juice, in soup. Like, do you like a smooth soup or a chunky soup? So I'm just going to throw it out there because I don't know either of you. I mean, I know you, but I don't know your preference. Josh, are you?
You don't know either of us.
Well,
we grew up together.
I don't know your preference in orange juice. So Josh, are you a
preference?
Are you a bit or a no bit in your orange juice?
Usually no bits, but honestly, pulp does not like gross me out or anything like that. I will drink orange juice with pulp. I guess it's like more natural feeling for some people, but I feel like it's just debris in the way of drinking.
When you put it that way, then like I don't
right?
want debris in my way of drinking. Kev, are you bits or no bits?
No, I mean I'm with Josh, but I'm generally a no orange juice person. So like, yeah, I haven't had orange juice in like forever.
Is there anything more, Kevin, of like, let me ask you a simple yes or no question, and I'm going to tell you the answer is tomorrow, and like.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you wanted to know something about me, Mike. I'm telling you, I'm giving you more information than what you're asking for.
I'm firmly in the no bits category. If I have a choice, I'm taking some smooth orange juice. Real quick, because now we're in it. Soup. Do you like smooth soup, or do you like stew that has like chunks of stuff in it, Josh?
Stew. I feel like stew is just more hearty. Like soup is not a drink to me, so therefore it should be stuff in it. It makes sense. If it's just smooth, it's just broth, and that's not soup to me.
I like tomato. Oh, okay, that's right. Kev.
Yeah,
bits or no bits in your soup?
I think they're different things, but yeah, sure. I also feel like a soup is a soup when you have stuff in it. Like otherwise, it's like it's a vehicle for like grilled cheese.
Kevin's answer is bicycle. So there you go. Bits or no bits in soup, I'm answering bicycle. So
staying true to myself.
Clearly. Oh man.
Can I ask one more?
Yeah.
Chunky or smooth peanut butter?
Oh,
Do you want bits in your peanut butter or not?
I will eat smooth peanut butter, but I prefer bits of my peanut butter. I like it a little chunky. Yeah.
Kevin,
I'm
I don't like peanut butter.
Rocket ship.
no, I'm right down the middle. I like both, and I alternate between both. So yeah.
Smooth
I
peanut butter for me.
I cannot wait for some of these Mon Minute questions that we are going to hold your feet to the fire on later in this episode. So just brace yourself because it is coming. Guys, let's get into it because we do have a lot of stuff to talk about. Liz got a ton of questions during the game this week, so we're going to dive right in. Obviously, Hounds lost to Memphis 2-0 at home. It was not necessarily pretty. We've been doing, let's see if I can grab the right one. Nope, that's not the right one. Yeah, there we go. We've been doing Twitter polls every single day now, which has actually turned out to be a lot of fun. Some of them have been like related to the Hounds and some have been completely irreverent, and those are still fun too. But if you want to, go follow us on Twitter at Mongols, and every single day there will be some thought-provoking question that you won't just, some of you may just trigger finger, just pick one. But regardless, we put out a tweet on the day of the game asking how everyone thought the game would end up. And 58% of respondents thought the Hounds would win this game by 1, not lose this game by 2. So unfortunately, the majority of us were wrong. Josh, you were there. Give us a takeaway.
First, about the question, I think that was a sign of things to come. Because if I'm looking at a poll given to a whole bunch of hometown Riverhounds fans, and they're like, yeah, maybe we'll win by 1. That to me feels iffy. You know what I mean? Like if you're saying, oh yeah, we could win this. If we did, it would be by 1. That's like the best foot forward optimist. Like if everyone was like, oh, we're gonna win by 2, we totally got this. That's a lot of confidence. But to me, saying we'll win by 1, that's not confident. That's like, I hope we win. Okay, but yeah, takeaways for this game. First off, tailgate before the game. It was one of my favorite tailgates we've ever had. It was a blast. We had a whole bunch of interactions with players and players' families. Shout out to Cicerone's dad. He came to the tailgate. We hung out with him. Fiance came. They played Thunderstruck with us. So that was a blast. We had not toy drive. We had a teacher drive for school supplies. Rovi came to that and dropped off a lot of supplies for the teachers, which was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we had a lot of other people drop off supplies and give money, so that went really well. So that was exciting. And yeah, just all around, it was just a fun tailgate. We did name tags for the first time. We thought it'd be fun because like you don't really, it's weird to ask people their names at tailgate over and over. Like, you know what I mean? Like you see them once, you say hi, you introduce each other, and then like years go by and you're like, I've known this guy for years. I've only asked his name once and I feel embarrassed for not knowing it. So not because I suggested it, because I'm terrible with names and totally don't know half the people's names. But yeah, we did name tags and learned a lot of names. So that was good.
And people put like actual names and not like fake names?
Yeah, actual names. That was great. If next time we do name tags, I want a little bit bigger name tag and for us to do first name and Discord name, so I can match people's Discord accounts with their names. So I can know who I'm talking to on Discord, because a lot of people just have like avatars that are not their picture. So I'm like, I have no clue who this person is. So that's next time. But yeah, that's where I'll leave off right now, because I didn't want to talk about the game. So go ahead, Kevin. What do you think of the game?
I think generally, I don't know. I think there were moments in the game where I think we, looked good. But the main thing I took away from this game, and I think this has been a core theme throughout the season with this set of players at times, I think we do the first and even like the second thing really well, but then often the third thing goes awry. And in real terms, it kind of nullifies the first two good things. So like, I remember like I made a note. It was around like minute 15. Dixon and Griffin played a great like 1-2 to put Dixon in onto the 18 to create a chance. But then Dixon's first touch after that 1-2 was poor and it just runs out of play. Like there's just a lot of moments like that where we do something great, but the third thing or the fourth thing in the build-up play breaks down, and it doesn't matter. Like everything that led up to that, I mean, it matters in a broader context of things, but as far as chance creation or, any kind of legitimate chance or shot on target, it that doesn't do anything. Like, or, a decent buildup breaks down because someone strays offside. I feel like that happened a couple times too. I mean, more than a couple times, but yeah, I mean, it's the whole, like, you can be great for 99% of a soccer game and bad for 1% of the game and still lose the game. It's you kind of have to, those little moments that can last 6 seconds, can define a game. The first goal that Memphis puts in, but I'm not bashing Griffin here. I think especially of late he's been quite good. But we win the ball back on defense, and we go to transition, and Griffin gives the ball away in like the worst area of the field that you can give the ball away. Memphis turn and they score. So yeah, I mean, there's this quote.
Well, and not to, I'm not defending Griffin in this case, but there were a lot of people at fault for that goal.
Sure.
Sort of standing, watching.
Yeah.
It was not defended well. The fact that one guy could dribble the ball as far as he did, he took the shot falling, so like good on him. But that was a calamity of errors that led to that.
I'll push back slightly on that because it's not like Memphis built up from their back and we had time to get organized and then that still happened.
Right.
It was a scenario where, as a defender, you don't expect your midfielder to give the ball away at that point in the field. Right. And so you're caught out of position or whatever. But yeah, I mean, to kind of wrap up my point, I really like this quote. Has been like I've applied it like everywhere in my life lately, and I think it applies here. But it's never forget the 6-foot man who drowned crossing a river that was 5 feet deep on average. And did you get it? You get it was average. 5 feet on average.
On average.
But you gotta live all the time, right? You can't live on average, right? And so it felt like that was part of this game where I think on large stretches of the game, I think we matched Memphis quite well. But they're just, all you need to do is turn off for 6 seconds and you can let in a goal.
Memphis had basically 2 chances on net and they scored them both. So, yeah. I think there were a couple of positives. I thought Dikwa was pretty much everywhere in this game. Like the number of times that we sprung Dikwa and he was getting a chance. Kev, you mentioned number of build-up plays. But again, like if you don't finish them, you're kind of where you're at. The one other big positive that I sort of, as watching the game on the stream, I think they announced it was 4,700 plus people at the field on the same night that the Steelers had a home game, which like in years past, we would have been looking at like 1,500 people. So progress, baby. Like we're, we're taking steps. I know it's preseason for the Steelers, but regardless, like I live 10 minutes away from where the Steelers have training camp. And you would have thought that, Woodstock descended upon the town because like everyone is here for them. It's a big deal. So the fact that we almost sold out while they have a home game is a big deal.
I'm still going to hold that. It goes more to prove my point that I've been making that we're not competing with the Steelers for seats, for fans. People who go to Steeler games are not also like thinking to themselves, should I go to a Steelers game or a Hounds game? Like it's not the same. Like the price difference is just so huge that it's like completely different categories. So yeah, like we can draw during a Steelers game every day of the week. I think if other things are factored in, like I don't think it matters the Steelers playing. Maybe you lose some people because they want to stay home and watch the Steelers play. But that's what you're challenged up against, not against people going to the game. Yeah.
Josh, give me another takeaway.
Yeah, I mean, just completing chances. It's so annoying to see. Like I haven't looked at the XG chart, the hopes and dreams chart, because I kind of figure it's going to be.
Do you want to? Because it's here.
God. It's actually not as like staggeringly like look at all the chances we had as I thought it was going to be. What is that? 0.96 XG for us.
And we have 0.96. We have no goals. They had a 0.5 xG with 2 goals. So,
I hate that chart with a passion.
Here, do you want to look at this one instead? This is the train flow.
I love the train
Yes.
flow. That one
Yes.
I'll look at every day.
Yeah, our buddy at Kyle McHenry on Twitter he now does the train flow. So there you go. We had a total trains of 2.
Vesti's commitment to the bit is just fantastic. Thank you, Vesti, for keeping on with the train flow. I hope it lasts all season long.
Yeah, absolutely. Kev, you were going to say something.
No, I was just, if you go back to the XG stuff,
if we have to.
I mean, I think this kind of like furthers the point of, I don't know. I feel like a lot of our quote unquote chances aren't really chances. I mean, they're chances that any decent goalkeeper should be making with ease in the USL. And I think to me that kind of like lays it out here where, we have a lot of like small bar charts, right? In Memphis doesn't have a lot of bar charts, but when they do, it's, it's big. I mean, I'm using the wrong terminology here, but if you're looking, you get what I'm saying. If you're listening, I'm sorry. But
don't you do stats for a living?
Yeah, is this your job?
That's all I wanted to say.
No, like
that off the screen.
To the point of like it's earlier today on Twitter, someone posted a chart that showed for MLS. It showed their XG at like average versus their actual goals and where they fall on this chart, and it was really cool because it was like seeing like, oh, these people or this team has a very good XG, but they have terrible finishing. So they're like, I think they called it unlucky. Like, how unlucky are they? Versus teams that, finished on the fewest chances. How lucky are they? And I gotta imagine if we saw that same chart for USL, the Hounds would be bottom right. I mean, they'd be very unlucky. A lot of chances, just not a lot of finishes. Maybe it's just because that's like my team and I see it all the time and like I'm just more jaded about it. But I feel like we have to be one of the worst teams as far as like finishing the chances we get, because it definitely feels that way. Am I over exaggerating? Do you guys feel that, or do you think maybe it's not as bad as I think it is?
I think there's a bit of, and this sort of gets to my next point, I think there's a bit of chances when they matter. Like, I feel like we play a lot of the teams that we're supposed to beat, and the chances go in more than not, or we end up winning the game, so the chances that we miss aren't as magnified as if we miss them in other games. And there seems to be this trend since Lily has been here, I can count maybe 2 or 3 games in the whole time that he's been here that we have beaten teams that are sort of above us in the table, or that we are trying to measure ourselves against. So the Louisvilles, the Tampas, in this case, Memphis. Memphis was sort of ranked above us. We thought they're gonna come in. This is a great chance for some points and a swing. When you look at our record this season against Louisville, Tampa, and Memphis, we have 1 win and 4 losses. And against everybody else, we have 12 wins, 3 losses, and 4 draws. So more than half of our losses this season have come against Louisville, Tampa, or Memphis. So that's a case to me, Josh, exactly what you were saying, where these are the games where you hope those chances fall. And for whatever reason, when we play these games, they just don't fall. Kev, you have this like smug look, like I got something.
No,
I'm
I
gonna
think you're
give
right.
it to him.
No, that I completely agree. And I mean, as you point out those numbers, I mean, all I'm thinking to myself is like, that doesn't sound like a team that performs on the playoffs. Like, so, it's one thing maybe if you slip up against, I don't know, Red Bulls or Hartford or whatever. But if you put a good showing, or that. But if you put a good showing against the teams above you, then like you always have a chance, or at least I have a stronger belief and hope that you can make a deep run into the playoffs. We haven't really shown any evidence of showing up against teams that and in the table are better than us, and that's what constantly kind of just worries me. I don't know. I mean, and not that it matters. Louisville beats Tampa like for this past week, further proving Louisville's complete dominance. But yeah,
it's going to be an issue. Like, this is what worries me though, because like we can have a good season, but then we bomb out of the playoffs, and this is why we bomb out of the playoffs, because we can't beat teams that are top of the table, and these would be the teams in the playoffs. It's one thing to beat low hanging fruit like Loudon and the other two teams, or Fraudford or any of those, but like if you can't beat the top teams, the playoffs are going to suck, and I don't want to see another crappy playoff run from the Hounds, and that's what I'm worried about after this game. Maybe it's a lot to put on this one game, but we're at home. We're against a team that's just right above us. It's not like we're playing the top team in the league, just a team right above us, and we can't finish. And that's just really worrying when those are the teams we're definitely going to have to beat to even get to the Eastern final. Like, we're not even talking about winning the playoffs, just, getting farther than the first or second round. That's what we're going to need to be able to do.
Yeah. Jumping ahead a little bit, I mean, I know we typically look at the table a little bit later, but we have 10 games left in this season. And 2 of those games are against teams that are above us in the table. You have Louisville and you have Birmingham. And we have 4 games coming up in a stretch that we'll talk about in a minute. But we did put out a poll. I mentioned, our new thing is this whole poll thing. We currently sit in 5th place in the East behind Louisville, Memphis, Tampa, and Birmingham. And we're in, like I said, 5th place. So the question is, do we think that we're realistically going to finish higher than 5th? Like, are we better than 5th? And 70% of the people who voted said that they think we're going to finish higher than 5th at this point. So there's still 11 hours left on the poll, but I'm having a hard time, guys. Like, if I throw up the table here real quick, you got Louisville at 1, Memphis at 2, Tampa at 3. I don't see us beating any of them, and therefore gaining ground on them is going to be tough. Birmingham is now ahead of us by 1 point, so maybe we jump over Birmingham, especially since we're going to play them. But I could just as easily see us stay in 5th. So I don't know. I mean, based on the performance that we've seen, based on the numbers against teams that are above us in the table, Kev, pick a spot. Where do you think that we finish the season at?
I mean, you should know by now. Anytime you ask me a spot, I'm not going to give you a spot, but like I'd say it's about
what
we have about I would say like a 50-50 shot at finishing top 4. I do think it's firmly between us and Birmingham. I don't see Memphis. I mean, they did something that was harder than we're making it out to be on this podcast so far, in that they came to Highmark and won 2-0. I was impressed by what Memphis showed. Louisville and Tampa looks so. I mean, to me, that top 3 is kind of locked in, and Birmingham is just they've won their past 4, and then they've also won their like last 6 out of 7 games. I think they've lost once in the last 7, and they've won everything else. So they're on a roll. I mean, but things happen. So I don't know. I mean, we've been on rolls in our season and then fallen off a cliff. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens between us and Birmingham. But
there is a silver lining to this, which I'll just tease now. We'll talk about it later. But Josh, back to the question: do you think we finish higher than 5th?
I do. I think we're at least 4th. We're probably 4th, is what I would say at this point. I do think we're better than Birmingham. But I mean, I haven't looked at their schedule. I know what we have ahead of us, and I feel like we can get a good amount of points with our schedule that we have. The West Coast teams are such a head scratcher, though. Like, I don't know what to expect, so it's a little bit up in the air. But I do think we should be able to get 4th place, which sucks because before this I would have been like, yeah, we can get 2nd. Now I'm like, I don't know. 4th place sounds pretty good.
The trouble with, I'm just not going to get my hopes up. I agree that I think 4th place is possible, but what does that get us? Like, potentially a home playoff game, and then we're out. because we're playing a team that's like above us in the table.
That'd be great. A home playoff game.
Oh, no. I'm not, listen, I'm not dogging a home playoff game. Like, because the last home playoff game we had was Louisville a few years ago when they came in and beat us in the Eastern Conference Finals, I think it was.
Sounds right. Yeah.
That was like 2 or 3 years ago. And then before that was that was the same season as that was like the 6-0 drubbing of Birmingham at home. So I'll take the home playoff game, but I'm just not like setting up my hopes for anything beyond that at this point. It's just, we got to see this team show up and measure themselves to the Tampas and the Louisvilles of the world. And they couldn't do it against Memphis. So like, that's just kind of what it is, which it's a shame because at the beginning of the season, one of us, it wasn't me, was like, we are not going to lose a game. Like, this team has so much depth. We're going to be great. And here we are. So it is one game. I don't want to get too wrapped up in it, but when you sort of look at it amongst all of the other games, we were on just a 6-game unbeaten stretch, which is great. I think the next few games look very favorable, but it's just this theme that no matter what, just kind of lingers. And I'd love to see us get over it. And this has just been a constant topic of discussion of like, when are we going to catch the Louisvilles? When are we going to be consistent like that? And it's just, we're not there yet. So I don't know what it's going to take to get there, but it's where we are. Guys, anyone else, anything else that you guys want to talk about in this one before we get into all of our wonderful Mon Minute questions?
No, I mean, we already talked about Dequa, how good Dequa looked.
Yeah.
I mean, if he would have finished a couple of those chances that were super close off the bar and, good saves by the keeper, this would have been probably a different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the fact that keeps happening. It makes it hard to have a different conversation. And just like going back to the playoff thing real fast. So 2019 is when we played Birmingham. And that was the 7-0 win, but that was the year that we got first in the league. So we were playing the worst team in the playoffs, which kind of goes back to our worry that, playing the worst team in the playoffs is different than playing the best team in the playoffs. That is worrying if we're going to get fourth place.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's about it.
Agreed. Kev, anything else? You good? You ready to move on?
Cool. Move on.
Let's move on. So for those of you who are new to this, this is a new segment. Basically at home games, Liz goes around after having a few libations at halftime and finds random people that have questions for us. And they ask them. She records them, they ask them, and we put them on the show. And as a thank you, they get a sticker and they get a shout out and they get all sorts of stuff. So if you're at Highmark Stadium and you want to get on the show, find Liz at halftime. I'm sure that you'll be able to find her. She always wears the jersey that says "Your Drunk Mom" on the back, right, Josh? For the most part.
Of the time, yes.
Most of the time, yeah. So yeah, find her and she will get your thoughts and you'll get on the show. So let's jump into it.
Jack, my question is, how do you guys feel about Sacramento getting all the way to the U.S. Open Cup final? You think the Hounds can ever beat an MLS team and take some steps towards that?
Yeah. What do you think? How many years? I want definitive answers. Kevin, I'm looking at you.
2.6.
That's perfect.
You were going to squirrel away earlier in the episode. And so
wait, who said 2.6 at the end? Was that Liz?
I don't
no,
think
that's just someone in the background.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Yeah. 2.6 what? Kilometers? What are you talking about?
2.6 years. She said how many years or whatever. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. First off, Jack, thank you for the question. We really appreciate it. Obviously, I'm pumped for Sacramento. This is great. I think if the USL Championship makes it to the Open Cup final, then it's like the entire USL Championship is in the Open Cup final. And the fact that Danny Vitiello is leading the back line essentially for Sacramento is all the sweeter. For some reason, in my YouTube feed, it came up this week, our interview with him from 2 years ago, last year.
Nice.
Last year. So I watched it. I was like, this is great. Danny Vitiello, great dude. So yeah, couldn't be happier. Do I think that the Hounds are ever going to beat an MLS team? Well, we had a shot this year and it didn't happen. It wasn't for lack of effort. We played Cincinnati and there were moments we looked good, but we totally got buried when Cincy started going to their bench, and their bench is full of MLS players and our bench is full of, USL Championship players. And it just, it fell apart. So I don't know. Josh, you watch a little bit more MLS than we do. How confident are you that the Hounds could beat an MLS team? We'll say this year, and then like, what do you think would need to happen for us to actually do it in the future?
I mean, this year it would be harder, but I will say that the gulf between the two is not as big as it used to be, and I think it's becoming more of a truism essentially because right now, if you think about it, the way that a lot of MLS teams treat the Open Cup is an afterthought. So they're playing their B squads during the Open Cup stuff because they don't care as much as I feel like they should. So with that being the case, you're looking at like a second string or MLS team versus a first string USL team, and that is really close. And I could totally see us beating MLS team. Like I said, this year, I mean, I still think that the disparity between the two is still a little bit larger because we're not talking about an MLS2 team. We're talking about the bench of an MLS1 team, which is different because I feel like the MLS2 team is basically the guys who can't make the bench on an MLS1 team. So that's the 3 degrees of separation essentially of an MLS team that we're playing with MLS2 squads. So yeah, I don't think it's that far away though. I really don't. Like I could see like next year, the year after that, like it totally being a possibility. I think it's a possibility now. It's just a little bit harder of a possibility.
So realistically, depending upon the team, you think that the Hounds could potentially beat an MLS team this year?
Yeah, because the teams that are taking it seriously enough to actually be in it, or who actually are showing up by the time we see them at the first part of it, but still, like the way that they're showing up to it isn't that great. MLS isn't that great, so therefore, you play the right MLS team who doesn't care as much, and they're already pretty low in the table to begin with, and you're playing them. They're showing up with their second squad. Yeah, totally could happen.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if the Hounds currently, I mean, this gets back to the conversation we just had. I don't know if the Hounds currently possess the magic to make it to the finals of the US Open Cup the way that Sacramento has. I mean, obviously, there's a number of things that have to fall the right way for you. Their last game went to a shootout that Danny Vitiello was a big part of, keeping them in the game for. So there's a lot of luck that goes into it. Kev, Liz calls you out specifically, and 2.6 is not a valid answer. So realistically, let's not say years, but what do you think that the Hounds have to do to sort of level up to the point that you would feel confident in us going sort of toe to toe with, MLS benches essentially regularly?
I don't know if I would ever say I'd be confident going up against MLS teams, but I mean, it's possible to have, however many games it takes to get to the final. I'm making up numbers here, 5 or 6 games. If each of those games, the likelihood of you winning is like 30%, you could still make it. You were never favored in any of them, but you could still make it, right? And so I think that's kind of how it works out for us here, where Sacramento are they're 5th in the West. They've won 10, drawn 7, lost 6. They're not particular, their goal difference is +5. They're not particularly great. And so I think a combination of having really strong characters who like believe in themselves no matter what, especially against tough competition, and then getting some luck along the way, whether it's a couple home games against an MLS side and things like that. So I think we're as likely this year as we will be next year, as we will be the year after that. It's just kind of having the right combination of things and having the stars align, and then we can kind of make a run for it. I think that in different circumstances, I think the game against Cincy could have went our way, quite in a good way. And so, yeah, I think we're just as likely to do it this year as we are next. So sure, I'll say next year we have the ability to do it.
What do you think? Like, if there was an area of the field that you feel the Hounds, if they leveled up there, that it would give them a better chance of succeeding, where would that be?
If we had like Zach Steffen back in goal, I think that'd be good. But
seriously, do you think that like keeper is the position? Okay.
Well, yeah, because I think so much of it you can't like. like against a good MLS side, you need to defend as 11 people. You can't have one great defender, right? You can't have one great striker who just dribbles through, because you're just not going to get that at the USL versus MLS defenders. So I think maybe the best thing that you can kind of rely on is just having an abnormally good keeper who has an abnormally good night and just frustrates it. And then, set pieces, corners, and then you can anything can happen. So I think in those instances, generally the keeper can make a big difference.
I'm laughing to myself because you're like, oh yeah, the keeper makes all the difference, and you drop Zach Steffens' name, Danny Vitiello's name, Kyle Morton's currently leading the Golden Glove race. It's just like, yeah.
Are you trying to say that Waite's not going to be in the same conversation next year when he gets signed to another team? And like, we're all like, remember when we had Waite? Those were the days. Just like we were like, let's be honest, Vitiello, like one of the things we always talked about was like, man, Bob's keepers don't have to do much because, their defense is really good. So therefore the keeper just stands there most of the game. And, it's a whole team effort to defend. And somehow the keeper always looks like he's magical. Which I'm not saying Video is not a good keeper. Obviously, he is a good keeper, but like that's always been the joke with the Bob's team. Is just the keeper always looks immaculate, even though the keeper usually has the easiest job in a Bob defense.
These two goals from Memphis aside, Waite's stats were starting to look really good over the last 6 games, and looking ahead to the next 4, it looks like they could look really, really good again. And so we'll wait and see where he ends at the end of the season. But I would not be surprised if he wasn't in the top 10 across the league in terms of save percentage. So, yeah. Dak, thanks for the question. Really appreciate it. Let's move on to the next one.
Hello, my name is Nathaniel, and I have a parking question, as we have an almost sellout crowd from what I've heard. Do you think we're ever going to fix the parking situation? It's kind of a mess, in a good way, which is good, but we would love to have more space and more supporters here. So what are your thoughts?
And how do we get better parking attendant police? Because they don't understand, and I don't like it. Tell us the answers.
Please.
Part of the fun of this is that like you can't just get the question; you have to get Liz's 2 cents.
Yeah, this week was particularly bad because we had the Steelers preseason game. So luckily, our lot that we tailgate in was for people who are only going to the River Hounds game. You had to show a ticket at the front before you could even pay for parking. So with that said, though, usually what people do, because our lot's a little bit more expensive, they'll go park in the parking garage in other places in Station Square. All those were full because of the Steelers game. I mean, both games started at 7. So at that point, our lot filled up way earlier than normal. And like, where do you go after that? Like this city, just like on this side, at least with parking, you can't handle 2 events with everyone driving. I would say public transit, is your friend. So if you're going to be coming to a game and you're not coming at 4 o'clock to start tailgating like us crazies in the Steel Army, then maybe don't show up at 6:30 thinking you can find a spot. Park a little bit farther away, park where you can get on the T and come over. Like there are options. I do think something that would help us a lot if there was an easy way to go from the T stop at Station Square and get like bussed over to the stadium, because it's a little bit far from some people. Like that's a little bit of a hike to walk from the T to Station Square. To the stadium.
Yeah. So
that would be nice. Maybe like a dedicated bus that just kind of like a trolley situation that kind of just truck people back and forth.
I mean, talk about money-making opportunities. Like, there you go. You get one of those like bar things that everybody pedals that just takes you from the T to Highmark Stadium.
There you go. Or just Molly's Trolley. Come on, Molly's Trolley. You just, Mr. Roger it all the way from just a quick little easy trip, $5 or something like that. Just charge a little, a little bit of money there. But yeah, I think a situation like that would be perfect. Only other thing that's going to happen, I mean, I guess they could put another parking garage like in Station Square, but I don't want that. Like I prefer a parking lot over a parking garage. I just think public transit is the answer, is your friend. And there's plenty of, ways to get there. If we could make that stop at the Station Square free, just like it is over on the north side, by the Steelers Stadium. Like that would be chef's kiss if that was also free, because that stop is not free. Like you have to pay for that stop. So that's what sucks.
Yeah. I mean, this is a problem that is most likely only going to get worse, especially if, we've been talking about the Highmark Stadium eventually expands. This is, the second game in a row that we're basically at maximum capacity, and we still got 10 games left of the season. So yeah, what happens if you end up expanding the stadium? Now you have even more people and less spots. And I agree with you. There was a whole argument when they started putting parking garages over on the North Shore near PNC Park and, well, what was Heinz Field. Now I forget what it's called, something stupid. Because people want to tailgate, and you can't tailgate in parking garages. So there's a trade-off there. If only, somebody was talking to the new team president at some point and could potentially ask his thoughts on things. Wink, wink, nod, nod. So, stay tuned for that. Kev, do you have any thoughts on parking, tailgate, anything like that?
I mean, I don't go to the games. I don't live in Pittsburgh. I'm not going to pretend to know the problems of parking and everything. I mean, without being there for a long, long time. And is the incline at all close to where the stadium is?
Oh yeah, you could use the incline, but I honestly feel like the incline is always congested. Like I feel like there's always a line at the incline. It's not exactly a speedy form of transportation. It's more of a cool sightseeing, and if you have to use it to get from point A to point B, use it.
Yep. Thanks, Nathaniel. Next question.
Gabriel Torres, I'm from Brazil, and my question is, who's the best guy on the team?
Oh, good luck answering that.
So, Gabriel Torres, isn't there a player, Gabby Torres, that I was like, isn't Gabby Torres is coming to Hounds games? That's awesome, from Brazil. So thank you for making the trip. There were a couple of questions that came in from Brazil. One that we're going to get to is from Canada. So a lot of people visiting from out of town coming to the game, which is awesome. Best player on the team. This is tricky because there's a couple of ways that you could go about this, right? You could think, okay, if the USL was putting together an all-star team, like who would you send to that? There's the question of if you were starting a team from scratch and you could just pick one player, because those could be very different players. Like, who would you build the team around? I'll go first. I think that if and you guys don't have to follow this format, but if we're sending a player to an all-star game, then I think it's Dixon or Cicerone. And I think if you're building a new team from scratch, it's Griffin. Kev, you're like shaking your head almost like
I'm like shaking my leg. I'm sitting back.
Oh, okay.
My legs are crossed.
You just look like you were stewing, just like you're dead wrong. There's no way. So I think if I'm starting a team from scratch, I'm building it around Danny Griffin. Josh, how do you feel about this?
I was going to say Griffin. Like there's a lot to be said about who plays the most games. And I think that it is Griffin this year. I was trying to actually pull up Shu's spreadsheet, but I did not get it in time. So going off of memory here, and I think Griffin has played the most this season. And if that's the case, if he's playing the most games, he's probably the best player as far as like reliability and the role he fills, and like who we need. And yeah, that's probably Griffin. I think maybe the more flashy answer would probably be someone like Cicerone or Dikwa or Dixon, like a forwards situation. But I don't know. I feel like you gotta just go on who's reliable, and that's your best player. And right now, it might be Griffin.
Kevin's gonna say Shane Wheat. Go, Kev. Go.
I mean,
is he a defender?
Goal scoring center backs. Yeah,
is he?
And these aren't offset pieces. Like
the way I interpret this question is like technically, like who's the best? If you're playing pickup on the weekend and you all just kind of show up and throw a team together, like who ends up being like the best player on the field? And for me, I think that's Dixon.
That's fair.
I think. He kind of has everything. I mean, I criticized him a little bit at the beginning of the show when I said, oh, his final touch, his first touch kind of led him astray sometimes, but I think he's the most complete and technically gifted player that we have. His pace is good. I was going to say his pace is unreal. It's not. His pace is good. He's versatile in the sense that he can play like wing back. He can play forward. I think he's even been kind of in a 10 role before. I mean, he has the awareness and the brain to kind of play those positions, to find the passes. I think he can put in a great cross. He can obviously finish. I think Dixon is our best player as how I think of best.
That's fair. All right, last question.
My name's Adam. I'm from Canada, and I'm wondering what's the best place to party after they win?
Oh, guys.
So the best place to party,
Knoxville, Tennessee. No.
Short jump, skip away.
Win, cow. Jeez. Josh, I off air, I was like, is it the parking lot? I don't know. Like, anytime there's a win, everyone on the field. You tell me, what's the best place to go after a win?
I mean, if it's like any typical game, you're gonna have to wait, at least half an hour until coach gets done, yelling at the guys, even if it is a win, on the field before the kids start rushing onto the field. So if that's the case, probably in this Paul Child stand, just because we're still waiting for the guys to come over to clap hands. But no, I would say, like, if it's like an event game, you're going to have a little bit of a party in the parking lot afterwards. But Home Run Harry's is right next door. That's the closest bar that you can actually just walk to. But I know a good amount of Steel Army members who actually go to the casino after the game sometimes. So you have the casino, you have, Home Run Harry's. You might catch some players at Home Run Harry's after the game, though. Like that's small little tip there. Usually, if they're going to go out, that's the closest place. You'll probably see them there. So, yeah.
Is that another opportunity for the team? Like, keep the restaurant and bar open for a few hours after a win, maybe?
I don't think you're going to get enough people sticking around. Like, you know how it is with Pittsburghers. Like,
no.
Even if we're winning, it's like, well, gotta beat the traffic. No, I mean, it could be an opportunity. I just don't think people are gonna pay stadium prices unless you have some special like beer, saving offers after the game. Like once the final whistle blows, everything's half off or something like that. Because like, where are you gonna go? Are you gonna stay at the stadium and pay, $10 for a Bud Light? Or are you gonna go over to Home Run Harry's and do the beer special there, which is only like a short walk away?
Yeah. No, that's totally fair. So thank you, everybody who found Liz and submitted your Mon Minute. We really appreciate it. There was one other question that I was interested in your guys' feedback on. It generated a whole lot of buzz on Twitter. So as I mentioned on Twitter, we're putting out these daily polls to get people think. There was a question earlier this week that we put out that said, imagine you can only attend one Riverhounds game in person at Highmark Stadium over the next 3 years, but you're given the option of either sitting on the bench with the team or sitting with the Steel Army. Which one are you taking? And this poll got 82 votes, which is like crazy. And 54.9% of people said they're going to sit on the bench. Kev, I'm interested because you probably haven't been to a game in 3 years. So not dogging you, this realistically could be a situation that if you were presented with it, would you choose to sit on the bench with Lily? The caveat, the Steel Army was quick to be like, is Lily still the coach? Lily is still the coach. Would you rather sit on the bench or would you rather spend that one game knowing you can't go back for another 3 years with the Steel Army?
So I think the brain tells me, and I'm going to walk you through, I'll get to it. The brain says, well, you take the bench because that's a once in a lifetime opportunity. You're sitting with the players. You're sitting in a place that fans aren't allowed. You get to hear Lily, but let's be honest, you can hear Lily pretty much anywhere. But I can't help but think, it's minute 35. I'm sitting on the bench. And I look over at the Steel Army, and I'm just thinking, it looks more fun over there. and so I feel like, in the end, I actually say I pick the Steel Army because I think it would be cool, but I think I would get to a point in the game where I'm like, the guys are just silently watching the game, and you're just hearing Lil yell, and you're like, okay, and it's just I just want to have fun, and I'm it looks like fun in the Steel Army, so.
That's kind of where I'm at too. I know, Josh, you sort of shot back that like sitting on the bench is the right answer. But Kev, I'm with you where like it would be cool. I mean, at Highmark Stadium, one of the benefits is that like you're practically on the field, and if you want to be on the field, you can buy tickets that are literally on the field, like you're standing on the turf, so you can get close. And like I'm with you, you get to the 30th minute, and you look to your right, and like Rovey is just sitting there, and Marky Barra is on your left, and Lily's yelling at the team. I don't know if I'm having a ton of fun. I might be like, this is cool, and they're looking at you like, we do this every week, and you're just like, well, I'm not sharing this with anybody. And then you look at the Steel Army, and you're jumping around, and smoke's going off, and just, I think I'm Steel Army. Like, and that's not like a sentimental, like that's a legit like, thank you, but I'll pass. I'm gonna go sit with the Steel Army. Josh, you live it every week, so like you're taking the bench.
Like here's the thing. I feel like a lot of people are missing the other part of this, which is, we hear Bob. We can hear Bob pretty much anywhere in the stadium, but like I want to hear what the guys are saying under their breath. Like I'm right there, I can hear it. I want to hear what like the
I don't think they're saying
coach,
anything. I think they're like trying not to pee themselves.
So? I bet you they're saying some things, and I think like the assistant coach, the goalkeeper coach, like I want to hear like the rest of the bench and like what's going on there. Now I don't like confrontation though, so like it would be hard like to. Polanski's point in the chat, he mentioned like don't want to be in direct line of fire of Bob's wrath if the game isn't going the way he wants. That's true. I would be really hard pressed to be like, okay, I'm skipping out on this, like if Bob's having a moment. But I do think there would be a lot to like hear, and like Bob yells a lot, but he also says there's a lot that we don't hear. There's a lot of like just like side comments he's making to the other coaches and that kind of stuff. I feel like that has to be worth it, like just to see what's going on there. Maybe I would go ahead.
I was gonna say, spoken like someone who sits in the Steel Army for every home.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, and I'm also like known to roam like at halftime and on in the second half. I'll be like, okay, well, I'm gonna go up to the top, or I'm gonna go over to the sideline and like watch the game from the corner flag or something like that. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting just to see what it's like. I mean, that's something that you don't ever get to see. So,
yeah. So that's what we think. Let us know what you think. If you didn't take part in the poll, we're interested. Matt, thanks for sharing your thoughts during the chat. We appreciate it. As a reminder, if you aren't following Mongols on Twitter, do it, because there's just more fun stuff like this coming. Wink, wink, nod, nod. So, yeah, guys, we already took a look at the table. We already talked about, could the Hounds finish higher than fifth? I teased that we have a nice little stretch coming up. Literally, the next 4 games, we get Red Bulls 2 at home. We get Atlanta 2 away. We get the Battery at home. It's on a Wednesday. And then Loudoun away the following Sunday. So after that, we get Louisville, Birmingham, and then we get a 4-game swing against Western Conference teams. So, like, this is it. And I don't want to say, these next 4 games are must wins. But when you look at if we want to finish higher than fifth, we have no idea what to expect from the Western Conference teams. Louisville and Birmingham are going to be big matches. So when we're essentially playing 3 MLS 2 teams and the Battery, who embarrassed us last time, we can't lose these games, right? I don't even think we can't lose them. They have to be must wins, right?
Not all 4, surely.
I mean, all can be possible wins, though, because like Red Bull 2, crap. Atlanta 2, crap. Battery, crap. Loudoun, crap. Like, we should win all 4 of these.
Right.
Like, on paper, all these are very, very, very winnable games. Like,
if we take this team seriously, or if this team takes themselves seriously, they should be looking at those 4 games and saying that's 12 points. Like, chalk it up. So, and this is a very real question. Why, as fans, are we like, not all 4, surely? Like, there's something about this team there we go. They're going to trip up against one of them. And it's like, well, then just, play for that one home game and then say, see you next year. Kev, you're shaking your head. What are your thoughts here?
Well, no, I just because I don't think you can say anyone like, oh yeah, like you're gonna win the next 4 games. Like I just think
but like you
statistically
expect
it's
them
hard.
to win. You expect them to win.
I don't
They
expect anyone
should-
to win
listen,
4 straight games. Look, yes, if you break down,
Statistically, they should win.
if you break down each individual game, yes. But I'm saying if you put together a string of, it's like it's essentially saying like don't roll a 1 on a 6-sided die 4 times in a row. Like yeah, but like you could always roll a 1, right?
Look. Here's the table again, okay? Those 4 teams that we just talked about aren't in the top 9. And you just said like, oh yeah, to roll off 4 wins. Birmingham have won their last 4 games. Like you want to be talked about as a top 4 team. This is what you got to do.
I know. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I think we can, like, I'm saying we don't, sure, you can't lose these games. But I also don't know, like, anything can happen against Birmingham. Yes, they've won they've won 6 out of the last 7, but we won on our run and then fell off a cliff and didn't win for 6 in a row. I'm saying anything can happen with Birmingham, anything can happen with us. So I'm just, I think, like, realistically, we can't really lose any of these next 4. I think 2 wins and 2 draws conservatively still gives us a shot. And I think like you're expecting 3 wins and a draw. 3 wins and a draw, I think still it puts a lot of pressure on Birmingham.
I would not say we can't win or we can't lose any of these games. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we shouldn't lose any of these games. Like we should not have any problems against any of these teams. I want to make a special shout out if a player's listening for some reason. Cool, but good on you. The battery game is super important. Like we need to win this battery game, and we need to win by 3. 3-0 is what I want, and like 4-0 would be nice. Like
so you don't have to ship the old guard shield. Is that what you're?
Don't want to ship
to?
This old guard shield. They probably don't have any traveling supporters. I don't know if they have supporters left. Like, I don't want to ship this thing to freaking. I just don't want to do it.
Is there like a dead Twitter account that you could DM and be like, I tried to reach you guys and just nobody got back to me. So
I'm being facetious. The regiment is still a thing and they have supporters and they still show up, but I still I don't want to have to ship this back to them. The old guard shield is awesome. It's at Bulldog. It has a spot. A whole shelf was built. There's a lighting system installed. It's a whole thing. Don't make me ship this thing.
I mean, realistically, though, Kev, do you think Louisville or Tampa would look at those 4 games and be like, 3 wins and a draw feel about right? Like, what kind of team do you want to be? Do you want to be a Birmingham or do you want to be a Louisville or Tampa?
Like I like this isn't a statement on any of these teams. I don't think anyone has a right to say we are going to win the next 4 games. I don't even think Man City have the right to say we're going to win the next 4 games, even though Man City are going to win the next 4 games.
Right. I don't think you have a right to say we're going to win the next 4 games, but you also shouldn't look at the next 4 games and not think that should be 12 points for us.
That makes me really uncomfortable to just do that. Like
bits
again,
or no bits, Kev.
if you break individually each thing, I'm just saying so much can happen. Like Cicerone could get an injury, Griffin could get an injury, and then I just don't know. It's just so hard
saying names because when that happens,
I'm just saying it's hard to predict the future. Yes, broken down each individually, we should win each game, but I just probabilistically the way life happens, I think it's just really hard to predict 4 wins in a row.
So if I set the over under on the next 4 games at 11.5, you're taking the under.
Yes,
taking the over. We're winning all 4 of these games.
I'm taking the over. We have to. If we want to be,
don't say have to. Don't say have to. You don't have to. But I feel like we are very probable. Like it's very probable that we will win all 4 of these games.
But imagine this. So we have 10 games left to go from this loss against Memphis to winning the next 4 games to then turn around and play Louisville at Highmark. What a game that becomes. You talk about a confidence booster. You just won the last 4 games and now you're back at home. That gives you a fighting chance. Josh, you're still nah.
No. Here's the thing. The same reason why I'm saying these 4 games we're probably going to win is because I'm not looking at them as a string of games. I'm looking at them as individual contests. Winning, 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 winning. Going off of those 4 simple games, very easy opponents. Like, I feel like going from the very simplest teams in the league to Louisville, that's going to be rough. That's going to be a big change in tactics and skill level that you have to like ramp back up to. Like, I almost feel like these teams are too easy to ramp up to Louis, because then like the team's going to be used to playing these easy teams where you get simple shots on goal and they actually go in, and then suddenly you have people who can actually defend and keepers can actually keep, and it's like, oh crap, that's right, it's not that easy.
But I will say that if we put together a performance against Louisville at home, the entire conversation we had at the beginning of this episode goes out the window for me.
Sure.
In terms of the like can't beat the teams above us. And it's not just because you beat a team, it's because you beat Louisville. Like in terms of confidence and what you can do, you can always point back and be like, we beat Louisville. Like, let's go to the playoffs and see what happens. So
unless you don't beat Battery by 3, then I'm upset.
I was gonna say, I was about to say, can we end, is that the high that we end this episode on? And Josh had to drag it back down to
sorry. It's very important that they beat them by 3.
Make it about you.
Scoreless. Very important.
Gentlemen, anything else for this one? We're already past an hour. We good?
We're good.
All right. So next week, as we sort of hinted and alluded to, and we still need to like dot all the I's and cross all the T's. It sounds like Monday we will have our normal show, except Josh and I will not be there. It will be Kevin leading. Have you ever led this show in the like 5 or 6 years that we've been doing this? I can't remember a time that you've like led the show.
Drop your expectations, people.
Are you actually going to lead it, or are you going to like make Steve lead it and then you just like add the commentary?
I mean, if it went like,
actually, I was going to say, Mike, what's your over under on the show happening on Monday?
Good question.
Well, okay, so
you're taking a big risk with this ask.
So there will be a show on Monday with Kev and Steve and whoever else is available and wants to jump on. And then the plan is, you didn't hear this from us, Wednesday that week we are going to do a special show with potentially the 3 of us and the Hounds new team president.
Wait,
he's going
this Wednesday or next Wednesday?
No, next Wednesday.
Cool, thanks.
Kevin thought this was the episode that he was going to be hosting without us until about 45 minutes before airtime, and so it's
which, by the way, he waited until 45 minutes before airtime before asking if anyone could be on the show this week. Like, hey, can anyone join me? I'll just be on the mic by myself.
Next week is going to be a lot of fun. I might try to like
you guys are making you're making a guy feel special. You know, you're just like really enticing me to keep
if
going.
My internet at my Airbnb that I'll be on vacation, if my internet's good, I might see if I can join in, but I have no idea what my internet situation is going to be.
It's really okay.
Same thing with the president show. Like Jeff, he was fun to talk to. I talked to him during tailgate. He came over. He also, shout out to him, he gave me a whole bunch of drink vouchers for the Steel Army during the game, which was a huge surprise. So that was awesome. But yeah, he was a great guy, great conversation, and can't wait to talk to him again. But yeah, hopefully I can make that one because I'll be on vacation. I have no clue what to expect from this Wi-Fi. So
yeah, we got you covered if not. But if you have questions for Jeff, send them our way. Like we said on Twitter @Mongols, we will try to incorporate them into the show. We're going to, yeah, it's going to be a fun one. So 2 fun shows coming up. In addition to, Hounds are home this weekend against Red Bulls 2 at Highmark Stadium. We kind of just like glossed right over that and looked at the next 4. But make sure you get to Highmark, find Liz. Josh, was Liz giving out the new stickers, or was she running through the packet of the old ones still?
I think she had both with her. I don't honestly know, though. We had some older ones still left, but yeah. Maybe she'll have both in her bag, so you can. If you're in the know, you can know.
Yeah, if she tries to pass off the old one, you can ask her for a new one, and she'll slip you a new one. So yeah, get to Highmark, enjoy the game, talk to Liz. You'll get on the show with Kev next week. Get on the full 90, all the fun stuff. Yeah, I think that is it from us, gentlemen. This is your weekly reminder. Black Lives Matter. We are proudly part of the Beautiful Game Network, which is home to more than 100 volunteer writers and podcasters covering local soccer. Help us all keep doing what we're doing. Head to bgn.fm, click the donate button to help us cover our expenses. We appreciate your support. Thank you, everybody. As always, we will talk to you very, very soon.
Cheers.
Later.